Okay, good morning to all. Okay, so we were discussing this module 5 satellite link design. So we will continue this and see few examples. So basically, the main concept of this satellite link design is to account for all the losses which are going to happen in the communication link or in the communication channel, and then be able to radiate more power than how many losses are going to occur, and also provide sufficient signal as per the receiver sensitivity. Okay, so different losses which occur in this electromagnetic propagation during satellite communication are this one: free space loss or path loss or free space transmission loss, then receiver feeder losses, that is within the receiver, internal noise in the receiver, antenna misalignment losses. So those are pointing loss and polarization loss. Then similarly, atmospheric absorption losses like rain attenuation, cloud attenuation, water vapor attenuation, or oxygen scattering, all those things because of the gaseous situations. Different atmospheric absorption losses will occur. And this receiver sensitivity is like what is the smallest amount of signal that the receiver can understand. So what is the slight variation in the input that can be detected by the by the receiver. So some people like uh, some ears and nose, the sensitivity can be best understood with human ear. So like some humans, they can easily sense even a small amount of sound, and they can identify that something is happening. And similarly, other people, like we have to shout in their ears, then only they will understand something. So that is different levels of sensitivity. So similarly, human nose also, like some people will be sitting beside a dustbin, still they are comfortable, and some other people, they, even if they are very far away, they will sense some amount of irritating smell or whatever kind of smell, like suppose on the gas milk is there, so they can easily tell from hall or outside from the veranda, they can tell that milk is boiling inside. So like that, they have different amount of sensitivity. So here also receiver has some type of sensitivity, like at least this much. So in other words, if you have, sorry, Tarun Sai Chaudhary. Okay. Okay, so basically, in terms of the vernier calipers and screw gauge, if you have studied, this is called as least count. So least count is the smallest amount of change which can be detected. So similarly here, receiver sensitivity is also the same thing, the smallest amount of variation in the signal which can be detected by the receiver. So receiver receiver needs these many dB of power. That is its sensitivity. Below that, if you have the threshold, below that threshold, then it cannot identify the signal. So all these things you have to manage, and therefore we have to prepare the link budget by considering all the losses. And sometimes when our planning is failed, we come across a link outage. So if the losses goes beyond control, like in satellite communication particularly, we have that sun transit outage. So there we get this kind of situation when the satellite is in during the equinox periods. This is more prominent in March 21st and September 21st. So even if you see during those days, the stock exchange are also closed, like Bombay Stock Exchange and National Stock Exchange. On not on those days, near to those dates, when the sun transit outage is at the peaks. So the time will be like between 10 a.m. to 12 noon. So at that time, whatever the internet or whatever services they are depending on the satellites, so those satellites may come across the sun transit outage, and the people who are accessing the servers of the share markets, they may not be able to get the proper internet, and therefore it is unfair to provide such a facility. So those times the entire share market is closed. So that is indicating the severity of this sun transit outage. So, and how much extra you are having, that is called as the link margin. Like if all your losses and receiver sensitivity is 200 dB and you are sending 210 dB from the transmitter, then the link margin is 10 dB. Right. So that is the link margin which you are having extra. Right. So then we were trying to derive one equation. I will quickly write that. So I was very much confused whether today I have to talk some general things or try to discuss the topics of this fifth module. So, but since this is the last day before the holidays, I thought I will discuss some of the top theory topics. Okay, so transmission theory is that free space propagation. So free space propagation is within the electromagnetic medium. So electromagnetic wave propagation. So what we told is if you have a isotropic radiator of PT, which is radiating PT watts, then at a distance r from it, the received flux density will be PT by 4 pi r square. So flux density is watts per meter square. So then what we have told is if this isotropic radiator radiates PT into GT watts, then the received flux will be PT GT by 4 pi r square. And for a practical antenna or a real antenna, it has its gain. So even though if it's radiating PT watts, even though a real antenna radiates PT watts, the received flux density at a distance r will be same as this PTGT by 4 pi r square. Okay, so because this GT is free means it is inbuilt into the package. To receive this much of flux density at a distance r, isotropic radiator has to radiate PT into GT watts, whereas the directional antenna, so real antenna means you may confuse. So directional antenna, it's sufficient to radiate PT watts because anyway its gain is there and that will come into picture. So overall we will get PT into GT by 4 pi r square watts per meter square at this much distance. So that is the effect of that. So this one we call PTGT as the effective isotropic radiated power. So to get the same flux density, isotropic radiator has to radiate PT into GT watts, whereas our directional antenna is okay with PT watts. The gain will automatically come into this picture. Okay. So then what is the amount of received power? That is only the flux density, but received power is equal to PR. PR is given by what is the effective aperture of that receiving antenna into the flux density. So here we made some mistake in the effective aperture. So actually we can characterize the receiver side. So there is a formula for gain. So receiver gain is equal to 4 pi A by lambda square. So basically what we are telling is this effective aperture, from where this effective aperture has come, it has come from the physical aperture. So suppose you have 10 meter square opening for that antenna and only 50% of it is illuminated. then you will have only 5 meters square as the effective aperture. Okay, so it's based on how much of the opening is there for the antenna and how much of that is illuminated by the electromagnetic wave. So that gives the effective aperture. In terms of when the gain and so if constant gain is assumed within the bandwidth of the within the antenna bandwidth, then we can use this formula for the effective aperture, like receiver gain is equal to 4 pi by lambda square into AE. So based on that, AE will be how much? You do cross multiplication. So lambda square GR divided by 4 pi into the flux density at that point. So lambda square GR by 4 pi. How much is the flux density? This much. PT into GT by 4 pi R square. So this can be written as PT GT GR divided by 4 pi 2 times is there. R square is there. This lambda square is there. So all these fellows you can write it down and put whole square. Right. So this is the received power at a distance r from the transmitter PT GT GR by 4 pi r square, 4 pi r by lambda whole square. Okay. And this particular thing is called as the path loss, 4 pi r by lambda whole square. Okay. So this is called as path loss or the transmission loss. And this equation, it is called as the link equation for free space propagation. So free space propagation means there are no obstacles in between the transmitter and the receiver. So this is the received power at a given distance. So as yesterday I told you, here the received flux is equal to follows the inverse square law principle, as in most of the conditions, like if you have gravitational or electrical charges or magnetism also, once you move away from that magnet or from the charged particle, the amount of intensity or the amount of magnetic field will be varying as per this inverse square law. So here also the same thing is happening. So yeah, that's all. So this is the received equation. So if you see this path loss is how much? It is proportional to the distance or proportional to r square. So if you go far away from the transmitter, so as the distance increases between transmitter to receiver increases, path loss will also increase. Okay, also increases. So that is obvious. As you move far away from the transmitter, definitely you will start receiving lesser and lesser power. So that is understood. So overall, how can we write this? This PT into GT is the EIRP. So we can write this equation as received power is equal to EIRP into gain of the receiving antenna gain, that is GR divided by path loss. Okay, so many watts. So this formula can be written like this. So this is in the normal scale. We can also write it in the dB scale. Received power in dB is equal to EIRP in dB. This multiplication becomes plus. So GR dB minus path loss in dB. So this is the equation in dB scale. So here it's only the path loss we are considering. So instead of that path loss, we can also consider other parameters. What are those other parameters? So PR dB is equal to EIRP. EIRP is that PT into GT plus GR into dB minus the path loss and minus atmospheric loss in dB, losses due to the transmitting antenna in dB, losses due to the receiving antenna in dB. So all these things you can combine. So you will get the overall picture. Overall received power will be this much. Okay. So here this equation or this is transmission theory, and generally we call this formula as the Friis transmission formula. So this is famous in even mobile and wireless communication. Okay, so Friis transmission formula gives the amount of received power at a distance d or r. So some people consider this as d also. So then their formula will be 4 pi d by lambda square. So So here, if you can understand this, what is the internal meaning of this? I will tell you. So path loss or free space path loss. So PR is equal to PT GT GR by 4 pi lambda square. Also, you can shift it above. So 4 pi R was there, right? 4 pi R square by lambda. So if you concentrate only on the path loss, it is 4 pi R by lambda whole square. So which is also written as 4 pi whole square into R square. This lambda is C by F square. So F here, C square here. So basically we can tell that at if you are operating at higher frequencies, then you will undergo that wave will undergo more attenuation because the path loss is depending on the square of the frequency. So if you go for a higher frequency, then you can expect more path loss. So to overcome that path loss, you have to radiate more power at the transmitter. Okay. So then one more thing which we can understand is this is only for the free space path loss, but generally similar equations are there. If you see what is the path loss exponent here. So path loss exponent is 2. So because the received power is depending on the factor of 1 by d square or 1 by r square. This is path loss exponent is 2. Then what happens in radar? So in the radar, the principle is like you have a transmitter, you have an object, and you send the wave to that object. And after striking that object, the signal will come back. So once the signal is coming back using the uh, shift in the frequency. So suppose if this is a moving object. So if it's a moving object, then you will have some Doppler shift. Based on that Doppler shift, you can find out how much is its velocity, and based on how much time it has taken to go and come back, you can tell how much distance it is from your transmitter. So that is the application of radar. But actually, what is happening in the transmission mechanism? So from here to here, it is going. So at here, the power is equal to 1 by d square. Right. So suppose if you are sending PT watts, then by the time it's going here, it becomes proportional to PT by d square. So when it's reflecting back, it's PT by d square only. And when it comes back to you, it becomes PT by d power 4. Okay. So in the radar range equation, which is famous in radar communication, so there is a similar equation for this Friis transmission formula called as radar range equation. So received power will be equal to or proportional to d power 4. So same is the case with the two-ray model. So if some of you are studying the wireless communication, so there is a two-ray reflection model. So what happens is if you have a receiver and a transmitter here, mobile tower, there this is the direct path like this. Then this path will have the path loss 1 by d square. Then there may be another path which is striking the earth or the ground and coming back. So this reflected path from here to the ground, it will be 1 by d square path loss. And from earth ground to again your mobile, it will be one more d square. So overall in the two-ray model, overall path loss will be 1 by d power 4. So like these are not in your syllabus, but they are based on the same principle of path loss. Right. So actually what we do in mobile communication is there are some urban path loss models. So urban path loss models are like there is more path loss than the prediction given by the free space path loss, because free space path loss is assuming that there are no obstacles. But in urban environments, you have buildings and roads and different things. So there will be more path loss, and therefore we go for a path loss exponent. Path loss exponent is given as 2.5 or 3 or 4 like that. So maximum path loss exponent will be 4, and it will be between 2 to 4. So how many of you are studying wireless and mobile communication in this sem? Like, is it compulsory or elective? Okay, any elective, okay. So that is also good subject, but 5 credits, very big one. 3 classes, J component and lab, very much. But again, yeah, the same thing. Since we are teaching as an outsider, we will teach it only superficially. But when you go there, all that equations, derivations will be there. So this two-ray ground model itself is a 2-page derivation, very big one. Okay, so right. So these are only some few small questions. Like list out the losses, what is the received power, define noise temperature. So noise temperature is like how much noise is generated by the device. So that is given as the noise temperature. And so the essay question is like explain in detail the losses that occur in the EM wave propagation. So 4 losses they have listed out: free space loss, receiver feeder loss, antenna misalignment loss, and atmosphere. So free space loss derivation they have done. And so this is till here. Then receiver feeder loss is like losses occurred in the waveguides, couplers, filters, and RF front end between the receiving antenna and the demodulator. So if you remember that structure of the super heterodyne receiver, so generally signal from satellite will come here at the antenna. So like this will be PR. Then there will be a low noise amplifier and followed by mixer and local oscillator. Then followed by the IF stage and demodulation stage. So it's telling that till before the demodulation stage, whatever is there, that is called as the receiver feeder loss. The waveguides, the front end antenna, what is that RF chain. So generally we call in telecom, it is famously called as RF chain because it's operating in the radio frequency. And this particular thing is called as RF front end in the receiver. So the RF front end, waveguides, couplers, and filters, whatever are there. So obviously at the starting you need a filter, right? A tuned filter is needed to tune into a particular frequency of interest. So all that losses are receiver feeder loss. Then antenna misalignment loss is like the general ideal situation is like this. If this fellow is pointing towards this, you also point towards that one. Right. So otherwise, if he is pointing somewhere else, you are pointing it somewhere else, then that much dB will be lost because so if you see this is the 0 dB power point, and once you go away from the main beam, it's like 2 dB less or 3 dB less from the main beam. So that much loss will occur if you are mispointing. So suppose if this fellow is sending here, you are receiving it here. So this point is obviously minus 2 dB or minus 3 dB compared to this maximum power point. So those are losses will be there. So one is the pointing loss and the other one is polarization loss, as we have discussed in the last class. So overall what you have to do is losses is equal to free space loss, receiver feeder loss, antenna misalignment loss, atmospheric absorption, polarization loss. All these things you have to combine into the losses category. Atmospheric absorption loss is due to the absorption of signal by atmospheric gases and other rain attenuation, cloud attenuation, those kind of things. Yeah, so this is the same derivation which we have done. Then we have few numericals. So basically it's on the same formula, and we have to calculate based on either dB scale or in the normal scale. Now we will do this one. So distance he has given r is given like 40,000 kilometers, radiates a power of 10 watts. So PT is given 10 watts from an antenna with a gain. So transmitting antenna gain is given in dB, so 17 dB. And how much is so what is asking, find the flux density at a receiving point. So flux density formula we know, PT into GT by 4 pi r square. So this is not an isotropic antenna, it's a directional antenna. So the flux density at a receiver location, which is r kilometers away, so will be this much, right? So this kilometer thing also you have to factor into this calculation. You have to convert it into meters first and then do it. Okay. So then what happens? Effective area of the receiver is also given. So he wants the power received. So first step is to find out the flux density. Second step is to find the received power, which is equal to the effective aperture into the flux density. So effective aperture is given 10 meters square because it's effective area, right? So 10 into whatever flux density you get, those many watts will be received. So here two options are there. You can proceed in the normal scale. Normal scale is like the linear scale. So PT is given, GT is how much? GT is 17 dB. So but in normal scale, if you want, you are supposed to do 10 power 1.7. So 10 power 1.7 is I think 50. Sir, how did you get this suddenly? So GT in dB is actually what? 17 dB. So actual dB formula is 10 log 10 GT is equal to 17. So log GT base 10 is 17 by 10, which is 1.7. Then this 10 fellow will go there. So GT is equal to 10 power 1.7. So this is the conversion which between the dB scale and so though you know it, just I'm writing here. So that's all. You have all these factors. F is equal to PT is 10 watts, GT is 50 by 4 pi. R is how much? 40,000 kilometers. So 40 into 10 power 4 into 10 cube meters. So this is in meters. So 2.49 into 10 power minus 14 watts per meter square. This is first one. Second one is power received. Power received is into 10 you have to do 10 into F because the effective aperture is 10 meter square. So if you see how nicely they are getting cancelled, this is 10 meter square effective aperture and this is 10 2 into 10 power, all these things, so many watts per meter square. So meter square cancelled. 2.49 into 10 power minus 13 watts. So this is the received power. See how much less power is coming at the receiver. So this fellow has radiated 10 watts from the satellite, and at the receiver, if you see, 10 power minus 13 watts is very less, like not even picowatts also. So with that much itself, we are able to receive the signals and understand them. So in dB scale, if you go, so dB scale, what you are supposed to do, F in dB. So F in dB is PT into GT in dB. So 10 log 10 PT into GT minus this one. So whole log you apply. So I will write one more step. So F in dB is 10 log 10. Both sides you have to apply. So 10 log 10 F will be equal to F in dB. So F in dB is equal to, that side also you apply 10 log base 10 PT GT by 4 pi R square. So it will be 10 log 10 EIRP. So some people will write in posh terms EIRP minus 10 log 10 log base 10 4 pi, and this R square is there, right? So minus 10 log 10 R square. So if you bring that 2 here, it will become 20 log R. Okay. So 10 log this one is 27, then 20, then this 10 log 4 pi is I think 11, and 20 log R is 152. All these are in dB. So overall, how much is the received power? Minus 136 dB watts. We will write dB. So this is dB watts per meter square. This is a flux only still. So this is first one. Second one is this one. Received power is equal to, so PR in dB is equal to F in dB plus effective aperture in dB, right? So F in dB is minus 136 plus how much is AE in dB? Normal scale AE is 10 meter square. AE in dB is 10 log 10 of AE. So 10 log 10 of 10. So log 10 base 10 is 1. So this is still 10 only. So just write that value 10 here. So received power is minus 126 dB watts. Okay. So 0 dB, how much you are sending at the transmitter? 10 watts. So 10 watts is like 10 dB, right? So if you are sending 10 dB at the transmitter, you are getting minus 126 dB at the receiver. So very less amount of power we are getting. So this is similar or same problem actually. In the previous question, they have given effective aperture as 10 meter square. Here instead of that, they are giving the frequency of operation as 11 gigahertz, and receiver gain is 52.3 dB. So here actually they are using the fact. So this you have to convert into normal scale. GR has to be converted into normal scale. So, or you can operate whole thing in the dB scale. That is your wish. So basically this is, instead of giving the effective aperture of 10 meters, they are using that formula where A is equal to lambda square into GR by 4 pi. So these specifications are like lambda square they have given in terms of the frequency. So you have to do C by F for this. And then GR 52.3 dB is given. You convert into normal scale and divide by 4 pi. So then you will get this 10 meter square. So just the specification is different, but the answer will be same. So quickly you can do it in the dB scale. So dB is EIRP plus GR minus path loss. This is the dB scale. Sorry, PR. So EIRP in dB is how much? 10 log 10 PTGT, which is 27 dB. GR is already given 52.3 dB. Then how much is the path loss? Path loss in normal scale is 4 pi r by lambda whole square. So this is 20 log 10. We want in dB scale 2 pi r by lambda. So this is path loss itself is minus 2.205 minus 205.3 dB. So therefore received power is equal to EIRP 27, receiver gain 52.3. This is 205.3. So minus 126 dB watts. So here they get rid of that flux density and effective aperture. Directly they are giving what is the frequency of operation and the gain of the receiver. Okay. So in the similar way, you can practice other questions also based on the same formula they are asking. So there may be some slight calculation mistakes, but you can get the overall feel of what is happening. Then here the starting question, why uplink frequency is always greater than the downlink frequency. So here the main reason is based on the power needed for transmission. So just I told that once you increase the frequency of operation, path loss is proportional to the square of the frequency, right? So if you select a higher frequency, then path loss will be more, and to compensate that, you have to radiate more power, which is not there at the satellite. So uplink, what we do is we go for a higher frequency because at the earth station we have lot of power supply, whereas in satellite we don't have. So during the downlink, we will decrease the frequency of operation and send it at a lower carrier signal. So here he has done that calculation and said that for the for the downlink, only 44% of the power is needed as needed in the uplink for this frequency. So you can also calculate what is happening for 11 by 14 gigahertz or 30 by 20 gigahertz. So this is 14 by 11 gigahertz Ka band, 30 by 20 gigahertz Q band. So how much is the improvement in the received power that you can find out. Then these are also similar questions, but here only instead of 38,000, we have to use 1,000. So here it's for a lower Earth orbit satellite. So minimum distance is 1,000 kilometers. So it will lead to the minimum path loss. Maximum distance of LEO is 2,500. It will lead to the maximum path loss. So both those values are being evaluated here. What is the minimum path loss and what is the maximum path loss? Okay. So here somehow suddenly has used 38,000, but you use only 1,000 kilometers. Okay. And that what is the path loss at different frequencies? Okay. So then this is the overall thing. Like if you know what is the C by N ratio in the uplink and downlink and in the intermodulation products, we can get the overall C by N of the overall link like this. So this we will do it once again formally. Yeah, so then it's about the noise. So one more class I will take on this noise thing before like after your holidays are over, one class we will spend on this and then move to the module 6 and 7. So let's see how many are there. 46. Okay. So So 2 more minutes I will take and I will show you what is actually. So though this is not in your fifth module, this is general. How is the network planning done for 4G? So this is the cell, like this is the tower and the area which it covers is called as a cell. So generally each cell will cover a large area. If it's a small cell, it has less power capability and it will obviously cover a small circular area. So that's why we call it as cellular communication. Okay, these are the different types of antenna, indoor, outdoor. So overall, what I want to show is like before the before you launch any 4G communication in any city or 3G communication, so they carry out this RF optimization. So they drive around the city in different locations with those power meters and GPS meters, at which location how much power is received. So after that, the all these are noted down and they do this kind of mapping for the entire city. So these are all triangular things are the towers. At these places, if you put the towers, then this kind of coverage can be expected. These green things are the area which it is covering. So like this we will do for the entire city. This is the drive test results and see where how much signal is coming and where are the coverage holes and how to overcome them. So these are the places in Vellore where Geo has put their towers. Okay. So if they put at these towers at these locations, then they can get the kind of coverage which they want. When you go for final year, you have to prepare this kind of poster for your project. What is motivation, scope of the project, methodology, flowchart, results, conclusion, and references. Who are you? Who is your guide? What is your topic? All these things you have to tell. This one and this one is for the indoor model. So inside the corridor, if you want to provide the coverage of the mobile coverage is nowadays indoor also we expect lot of signal strength. So for that in indoor models will be taken and this coverage will be analyzed. And one more obvious thing is this tower thing. So one interesting fact is like very near to the tower, we have the excluded zone where it is exceeded. So one is exceedance zone where lot of radiation is there. Then occupational zone is just like around it. Only those occupational people can go, BSNL people or those who are working in that tower company. Then compliance zone is for where all the normal citizens can live. But here one interesting way in which companies escape is if you see in this tower itself, there will be one person who is owning the tower and all others will be tenants. So 10, 10, 10, all these are like within one tower nowadays, all the companies are putting their antennas like Reliance or Vodafone or Airtel or anyone. So then when they are giving their reports, what they will tell is that the radiated power from our antennas is within the normal. Okay. So in that way, they are correct only. But the persons who are living near that, they are getting the radiation from all these companies. Okay. So that won't be featured in any of the calculations and therefore these companies will easily escape, like we are not radiating much power, so we are not in the danger zone and all that. So like that many things are there, so you should know the inside thing of any technology, then only you can catch these people, otherwise they will be escaping like this only.